Would you believe that some of the sweetest, most ingenious desserts were born out of hardship? In the darkest days of the 1930s, when pantries were bare and wallets thin, American home cooks whipped up creative treats from almost nothing, uplifting families with a taste of normalcy and joy. Wacky cake, crazy cake. Imagine baking a chocolate cake without a single egg, drop of milk, or pat of butter. Sounds crazy, right? That's exactly how wacky cake earned its name. Also known as crazy cake, this Depression-era delight was a brainchild of the Depression era, when ingenious cooks developed a cake that could be made without expensive and scarce ingredients. Instead of eggs for leavening, a bit of vinegar and baking soda worked the magic, creating a surprisingly fluffy, moist chocolate cake. Home bakers mixed everything in one pan, no bowls to wash, making do with what they had. The result? A rich, dark cake so delicious you'd never guess it was born of rationing. One bite of wacky cake and you'd swear it was moist, dark, and delicious, proving that ingenuity can triumph over adversity. It's the taste of Grandma's kitchen ingenuity, a simple chocolate cake that turned wartime thrift into dessert bliss. Poor man's cake, Depression, spice cake. No butter, no milk, no eggs, no problem. The poor man's cake, aptly nicknamed Depression cake or war cake, turned frugality into a spicy sweet treat. This old-fashioned spice cake emerged from New England church bake sales and humble home kitchens, relying on what was on hand. Prepared without butter, milk, or eggs, it used boiled water or coffee, a bit of shortening, or even bacon fat in a pinch, and whatever sweeteners were available, brown sugar, molasses, or leftover jam. Cooks often folded in a handful of raisins or other dried fruit to add bursts of sweetness. Spices like cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg gave the cake a warm flavor and aroma, making up for the lack of rich ingredients. Poor man's cake was more than just a recipe. It was a testament to perseverance. Families would savor this cake on special occasions, or honestly, any occasion. You celebrate small victories in hard times. Despite its meager ingredients, it comes out richly flavored with raisins and spices, proving that creativity and love can make even the simplest cake taste special. Tomato soup cake, mystery cake. Take a good look at that spiced cake. Would you ever guess there's a can of tomato soup hidden inside? The tomato soup cake, often dubbed mystery cake, is a dessert with a secret. Born in the late 1920s and gaining popularity through the Great Depression, this cake was a clever way to add moisture and flavor when fresh dairy was out of reach. A standard spice cake recipe was stretched by mixing in a can of condensed tomato soup. Yes, the same red Campbell's soup you'd pair with a grilled cheese. Don't let that odd ingredient scare you off. With cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg in the batter, the soup's flavor disappears, leaving behind a rich texture and a classic spice cake taste. As one recipe collector noted, a trio of cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg mask any tomatoey flavor. This cake was so popular that Campbell's itself published the recipe on soup can labels by the 1940s. Frosted with a simple cream cheese or vanilla icing, tomato soup cake gave families a familiar comfort, sweet, moist, and softly spiced, using an ingredient nobody expected in a dessert. It was an ingenious way to spice things up in the toughest of times. Ritz mock apple pie. How do you make apple pie without apples? During the Depression, resourceful bakers answered that riddle with the famed mock apple pie. This pie became legendary by using something completely different in place of fruit: crackers. Nabisco even printed the recipe on every box of Ritz crackers for decades. Home cooks would boil sugar syrup with a touch of lemon and spices, then soak Ritz crackers in it to mimic soft, cinnamon-kissed apple slices. Incredibly, when baked in a flaky crust, it tasted just like real apple pie. It's been defying expectations for generations, born from a craving for America's favorite pie when actual apples were an expensive luxury. During the 1930s, folks still yearned for the comfort of apple pie, but didn't always have that prime ingredient on hand. The mock apple pie was a brilliant substitute. Each forkful had the sweet, gooey filling and tender apples, really crackers, that fooled even the skeptics. Families could close their eyes and imagine abundant orchards instead of empty cupboards. This creative dessert gave everyone a taste of normalcy, the flavor of apples without a single apple in sight. In hard times, that bit of pretend comfort was as American as, well, apple pie. Vinegar pie. When life didn't give you lemons, some folks reached for vinegar. Sounds odd, but vinegar pie was a tart, sweet dessert that thrifty cooks made when fresh fruit or citrus was nowhere to be found. It belongs to the family of desperation pies. Desserts born entirely out of necessity. In times when seasonal fruit was scarce, make-do pies would come into play. Part of an American tradition of resourceful farming families putting together dessert with whatever they had on hand. A simple custard filling of water, sugar, a few spoonfuls of vinegar, and eggs bakes into a silky pie that tastes like a light lemon custard, surprisingly sweet, contrary to its name. During the Depression, farm wives prided themselves on desserts like this. Perhaps a neighbor shared a recipe scribbled in a church cookbook margin. "Good Lord, I need a pie. What's in the pantry?" as one humorous subtitle called it. Vinegar, inexpensive and ubiquitous, gave the pie a tang that mimicked the brightness of citrus. Add a dusting of nutmeg or a dollop of whatever cream you could skim, and you had a dessert that felt like a treat instead of pure necessity. Vinegar pie proved that even in lean times, American optimism could bake up something delicious from practically nothing. One slice of this make-do pie, and you'd swear you were enjoying Grandma's best lemon pie, a little culinary magic trick from the Depression pantry. Vinegar pie, one of the Great Depression's classic desperation pies. Despite its humble vinegar-based filling, it comes out sweet and custardy. Resourcefulness never tasted so good. Water pie. Perhaps the most astonishing dessert on this list is as simple as its name, water pie. This recipe sounds like a joke. Turn plain water into pie? But for many struggling families, it was a very real dessert that reflected their circumstances. A creation of pure necessity. Water pie uses just 6 ingredients: water, flour, sugar, a bit of vanilla, a little butter, and a ready pie crust. That's it. You pour a cup of water into an unbaked crust, sprinkle on flour and sugar, dot with what little butter you might have, and bake. In the oven, something almost magical happens. It sets into a soft, velvety filling reminiscent of a custard pie. Today, this might seem like a fun kitchen hack or poverty-chic experiment, but in the 1930s, it was born of desperation. Cooks with little to nothing figured out how to make a dessert for those they loved. One contemporary baker describes the chilled, finished water pie as having a creamy, buttery taste similar to a warm vanilla cookie once it's sliced and served. Back then, of course, there was no luxury of vanilla ice cream on top, just the triumph of having a real pie to bring to the table. The fact that plain old water could be transformed into a slice of comfort must have felt like a small miracle. Water pie is the Depression-era dessert that turns nothing into something, a reminder of how ingenuity and hope can make even water taste like a treat. Peanut butter bread. When you're out of eggs, out of butter, and even yeast is hard to come by, what do you bake? For many families, the answer was peanut butter bread. This hearty, quick bread first popped up in Depression-era cookbooks around 1932. It's a simple loaf where peanut butter does all the heavy lifting for flavor and richness. In fact, it was developed at a time when eggs, oil, and butter were hard to come by. Peanut butter stepped in as an affordable source of fat and protein. A basic batter of flour, baking powder, salt, a little sugar, milk, or even water, plus a dab of evaporated milk and a generous scoop of peanut butter was mixed and baked into a golden loaf. The result is a dense, lightly sweet bread that fills the kitchen with the cozy aroma of roasted peanuts. It's not too sweet, making it just as nice for breakfast as for dessert. People would spread what little jam or butter they could spare on a slice, or just enjoy it plain with tea. Fast forward nearly 90 years, peanut butter bread made a nostalgic comeback in recent times, going viral as modern bakers marveled at this 1930s gem. But for those who invented it, it wasn't just a fad. It was a lifesaver treat when treats were few. Rich with peanut flavor, made from pantry basics, peanut butter bread gave families a sense of plenty. Each slice was simple, filling, and comforting, the very definition of making do and making it delicious. Potato candy. Peanut butter pinwheels. In the Great Depression, even potatoes turned into candy. Potato candy is the kind of sweet you hear about from great-grandma, a beloved treat born from the need to use cheap, available ingredients. It originated in the Appalachian regions during hard times, where a boiled potato, believe it or not, became the base for a sugary candy roll. The recipe is as simple as it is surprising. As one food historian explains, this candy requires 3 ingredients: potatoes, peanut butter, and powdered sugar. Mash a small potato until smooth, then start working in heaps of powdered sugar. The starch in the potato binds with the sugar to form a pliable, fondant-like dough. This dough is patted or rolled out flat and slathered with a layer of peanut butter, then rolled up tight like a jelly roll. Slice it, and you have beautiful peanut butter swirled pinwheels that taste like a peanut butter cup crossed with fudge, intensely sweet, with a creamy center. Potato candy likely evolved from old European recipes. Some say Irish or German immigrants brought versions of it, but it truly became popular during the Great Depression as an inexpensive treat families could make for the holidays. You didn't need fancy equipment or hard-to-find ingredients, just a humble potato and the bottom of the peanut butter jar. And no, you can't taste the potato at all in the final candy. It's purely a sweet, creamy confection. For children who rarely tasted store-bought candy in those days, a platter of potato candy on Christmas or a birthday was pure magic. It's a reminder that a bit of creativity and a whole lot of sugar can turn the lowliest potato into a cherished family dessert. Poor man's cookies. Freshly baked cookies without eggs, butter, or even milk? Poor man's cookies made it possible. These treats were essentially chewy oatmeal cookies made with no butter, no eggs, and no milk. Truly a budget-friendly sweet. The recipe became famous thanks to a 1930s radio program in the Midwest called Jake and Lena. Listeners were invited to write in for this special cookie recipe, and thousands did. The original name was Jake and Lena Cookies, but one mother quipped that the name ought to be changed to Poor Man's Cookies because they contained no eggs, milk, or nuts. The name stuck. In an era when those ingredients were pricey or rationed, this recipe was a godsend. So what's in a poor man's cookie? The dough is made from flour and oats for substance, sugar or molasses for sweetness, a bit of baking soda, and shortening or lard as the fat. Often it included raisins or spices, if available, to make the cookies more flavorful. The batter could be spread in a pan and cut into bar cookies or dropped by spoonfuls. Either way, they bake up soft, sweet, and surprisingly satisfying for a cookie with so few staples. Despite the name, the cookies are rich in taste, one account assures. For families tuned in to that radio show, these cookies became a beloved reminder that even when times are tough, you deserve a little treat. Moms could serve them with a smile, knowing they cost merely pennies, and kids didn't care that they were poor man's anything. To them, it was simply a yummy cookie to dunk in a glass of cold, often powdered milk. 10. Shoofly pie. One of the most famous make-do desserts of its day, had a funny name and a deep, sweet flavor. Shoofly pie is a Pennsylvania Dutch creation from well before the Depression, but it truly earned its place at American tables in the 1930s. Why the funny name? Legend says it's so sugary that it attracts flies, so you have to shoo them away. This pie has no fruit filling, no custard, just a molasses-sweetened syrupy filling topped with a crumbly streusel. Molasses was key. When refined white sugar or fresh fruit weren't readily available or affordable, Amish and country cooks relied on molasses and brown sugar to satisfy the sweet tooth. Shoofly pie, especially the gooey, wet-bottom version, bakes into a texture somewhere between a cake and a pie. Each bite is redolent of dark syrup with a coffee-like depth of flavor from the molasses. It was a heartland staple through the Depression era and continues to find fans today. Indeed, in coal towns and farm villages, a hearty slice of shoofly pie with a cup of chicory coffee could start your morning right or end a sparse supper on a high note. This dessert may date back to the 19th century, but in the 1930s, its ingredients were among the few sweeteners people could reliably get. Even those who weren't Amish adopted it because it was inexpensive, filling, and stayed good for days without refrigeration, a bonus for those who couldn't afford ice boxes. And let's be honest, it's simply delicious in that old-fashioned way. Shoofly pie's sweet, sticky richness gave folks a moment of pleasure and perhaps a needed sugar rush to face hard work and uncertainty. In the pantheon of American desserts, this humble pie stands as a symbol of how ingenuity and tradition helped people make do and still enjoy the sweeter side of life. Even in the hardest times, people found sweetness to carry them through. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and share this video with someone who loves a taste of history.